Welcome to the Sky Cricket Podcast. It's the morning after the night before what should be the third day of the opening test match in Perth, but isn't. So we've relocated to a suburb called Mossman Park, a beautiful house on the banks of the Swan River, and we're going to do our podcast from here. Delighted to welcome Stuart Broad, who's realised that his own podcast for the love of cricket is not really up to the mark this morning, and you've come to join kind of the proper cricketing podcast. How are you?
I think I feel like every other England cricket fan this morning. Still haven't quite absorbed what happened last night. Having the emotion, the sort of emotion at lunchtime, thinking we're going to win this, we're in the box seat, and then to have it all dragged away. So yeah, I still feel a bit. I suppose what's the sort of saying, a bit flat this morning.
Yeah. Well, you've been all over my phone this morning because I saw the Sky Cricket account tweeted out the commentary box recording of you sat next to Matthew Hayden. I mean, that's torture, isn't it? Collapse happening. There was the root wicket, I think, when you then had to listen to Haydos calling it, and your facial expressions, I think, told the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Test cricket does to you, doesn't it? You sort of, it brings all your emotions out, and it was that period on commentary where we lost 4 in the blink of an eye, and when Rooty chopped on, it was just a natural reaction for me to just close my eyes and just pray it wasn't actually happening. You know, if I close them, maybe this isn't actually happening. Can we just soak up a little bit of pressure somehow? And I've been there loads of times before in Australia. We all would have been, where they just open that door slightly, and then when you talk about you're not just playing against the Australian cricket team, you're playing against Australia. It's that moment where that comes in, because suddenly the crowd was erupting, everyone's celebrating with their mates in the crowd, and you just see Jamie Smith walking out to bat and think, you've never been in a situation like this before, you've never felt what is going on. And credit to Australia, they were absolutely superb, but England just opened that door.
And you've set yourself up for a little bit of stick in the Channel 7 combox, because ahead of the series you described this as the weakest or worst Australian team since 2010-11. After those 2 days, is there anything that you've seen that makes you want to revise that opinion?
Not at all. No, I think I did say Australia were favourites for the series as well, and you know they are still a brilliant cricket team. I just looked at 2013-14 Ashes series where Mitchell Johnson bowled the speed of light. They were a better side. 17-18 and 21-22 all were a stronger team than this one. And that's why we feel a bit flat this morning, because it was England's best opportunity for a long time coming to Australia. Pat Cummins missing through injury, Josh Hazlewood missing through injury. A lot of confusion over what was happening at the top of the order. And if you look at that game, it was won by 2 outstanding individual performances from Australia, from their experienced players of Mitchell Starc and Travis Head, with a bit of magic dust thrown in with one spell from Scott Boland, who was very poor on day 1, but got it back together on day 2. You wouldn't say that was an outstanding team performance from Australia. We've all seen games over here where Australia win the toss, they bat, they get 500, then you get bowled out for 250. You just feel for 4 days you've been punched in the face. That wasn't that sort of performance. That was 2 outstanding cricketers having 10 out of 10 test matches.
I travelled back on the train last night. I was writing a bit after the game, so it was quite dark and not many people around, but quite a few England supporters were on that train back into Perth. And I was kind of chatting to them, and I think their reaction was a mixture of absolute bafflement for one. I don't think they could understand what had happened, and I'm not sure we can understand it either. But also a touch of anger there that, you know, thousands of England supporters have flown out, spent vast amounts of money to come and watch the England team, and now there's no cricket on days 3, 4 and 5, and you'd understand that sense of anger, really.
Absolutely. I flew out the day before the game, and it was full of England fans, and you could imagine the anticipation. Now, they probably come with a bit of fear. History tells you that Australia's a difficult place to go and win, and hence go and support an England cricket team, but you're looking forward to at least 4 days, hopefully getting into day 4, especially with this modern England team and the way Test match cricket is played at the moment. It very rarely goes 5 days. So you'd have been a bit silly to try and buy day 5 tickets with this present setup. But they were anticipating a close series, a good series, an excellent Test match. And day 1, they were leaving the ground. I left over that bridge at the Perth Stadium. And 2 things I noted: how the England fans had loved what they'd seen. That anticipation was now hope. And they were like, we could do this. Stuart Broad may be right. This could be an average Australian side. And we have bowled as well as we've seen an England side ever bowl in Australia. With all respect to the bowlers we've had in the past, that seam attack were quite brilliant. And that were the England fans. And even the Australian fans were like, I was walking over that bridge and they were going, that was pretty special today. We got our money's worth from that day's cricket. I wish I'd bumped into England fans yesterday, because I walked over the bridge and there were a load of Australians, and I wish they weren't talking to me, but they were. They were saying, do you want our day 3 tickets? Who's saying what you're doing? We were doing the pod last night and they were abusing us from the other side of the nets. They were enjoying that victory. And we said it before this series started. Australia have been waiting for this present England side to come here to do what they did yesterday. I just want to ask you a question. You said that the game was lost on 2 brilliant performances. It was also lost on 2 England collapses. 5 for 12 in the first innings, a lot of batters out hooking. 4 for 11 yesterday, a lot of batters driving on the up outside the off stump. What must frustrate those fans that we talk about is the repetitive nature of dismissals. When you're in that dressing room, as you've been recently, in this present England side, is anyone sitting there going, lads, it may not be wise to be driving on the up outside off stump, and may not be wise hooking with massive boundary square?
Yeah, there's a few layers to that point, for sure. When I've been in the commentary box with Justin Langer, who's played all his cricket over in Perth, not necessarily in this stadium, but the pitch is similar. And he just said your number one no-no is driving wide of length. When you think you can only drive when it's under your nose, but driving when it's to length held outside off stump is really dangerous because of the bounce. And England will talk about that. There's no way they'll just hide that and go, oh no, it's the way we play, because that actually wasn't the way they play. They were soft dismissals, weren't they? If you look at Pope and Brook in that little period, Duckett got a good ball, I thought, and that opened it up. But still, playing Test match cricket is about being tactically aware of where you are and what percentages are in your favour. And at that ground, on that pitch, driving outside off stump was not in your favour. And that's exactly why Australia went to it. You have to credit Australia for the plan of what they set about. It's very obvious for us now that what's going to happen is they're going to go wide, a bit fuller and wider to that middle order group if they get in, and then they're going to bowl short. And England will have to now find a way to be able to tactically cope with that, whether that's sort of dancing down further outside off stump and attacking it more. Because Brook and Pope didn't get out to outrageously aggressive shots. I think they might go, you weren't committed enough to that ball, and Root probably the same. But it is difficult when you first get to the crease. But I think Australia just tactically outsmarted them in that little period. And the feeling was a bit similar. So that sort of win-viz thing got up to England 74%. That must be the highest percentage England have had here since 2010-11. And you think back to Edgbaston 2023. Now we've had 2 occasions in Ashes cricket particularly where England are well on top in the game and they let it slip and they let it go. And that
isn't that why England fans this morning will be feeling especially hard done by because of that hope? I mean, if you look back at defeats over the years, I can think of that Adelaide defeat in 2006. This one felt kind of analogous to that that was a kind of late day collapse to a great cricketer, Shane Warne, but it was from a position of strength where England had declared on first things. If we go back even further, I can think of kind of a test match in Trinidad in 1994 where we were so certain of winning, the manager had ordered the champagne and it was put on ice ready for us to win, and then we collapsed in a heap. I mean, those are the defeats that hurt more than anything. Can you think of a particular game that you played in where that was the case, where you were really on top. And
Edgbaston 2023
Yeah.
was the one that I
Yeah.
was probably the most emotional at, in the sense that it was that third innings that we had the game, we were cruising, and that's the game now that I thought yesterday arriving at the ground, well, we're going to see a Joe Root 50 off
yeah,
120 balls, nice and calm, just play. These grounds it's a different style, because the outfield was incredibly slow, the boundaries are massive, so you're not going to get the same as the Oval and Lords and Trent Bridge and Headingley, where it runs the boundary and you can easily score at 5.5 and over. It is a different style, and I thought we'd see sort of Root just settle in and play yesterday, and that was the hope that I came to at the ground, and it was the Edgbaston game where I thought, we can just build a huge lead here and give our bowlers enough time with enough runs that you can keep attacking. And do you remember, I think Rooty ran past one.
he got stumped.
And got stumped, and
I mean, it is a running theme of this team, isn't it, Nas, that they've had great opportunities in a number of test matches. I mean, Edgbaston was one example there, but I mean, the very last test match that England played at the Oval against India, game in that absolute palm of their hand when Root and Brook were dominating that afternoon. And then, I mean, I spoke to Harry Brook a few weeks before he came out, or a week or two before he came out, and I was asking him about that Oval game, and he said that he was a bit complacent at the time, that he got out, thought the game was won. And the frustration is that they don't seem to be learning from those mistakes.
The game is never won. If you've been around as long as some of us have, this game will jump up and bite you, especially in Australia, for the reason he gives. You give them a little sniff. They may not be the greatest Australian side of all time, but they will be tough. They don't produce soft cricketers. You give them a sniff and you wake that crowd up, wake them up here, or you go to Brisbane and you wake them up there, then you are in trouble, as they found out yesterday. And it is something this side is very guilty of. They are not ruthless. There has been a number of occasions they have been ahead of the game where someone should have said, no, not today. We are 99 ahead, 1 down. We just bat now. We don't need to be flirting outside the off stump, driving on the up. We need to duck out the way of the bouncers. We need to get a lead of 250, 300, and then say, Travis said, going back like that, if you're chasing whatever they were chasing, you get up past 300, he has to play slightly different. When it's a smaller target, he gets off to a flyer, the game is done. Also, and I want to ask Stuart this, by batting the way they do, it means they, 67 overs in the game they batted England? As a bowler, you're not getting any rest. You often talk about having, 2 nights sleep for the body. You're not getting any rest at all. And it was noticeable, England's speeds when they go back out, they were 10k at least. All the bowlers were down on speed. Bazball has an effect on the bowlers, doesn't it?
It does. You get your rest day 3, 4, and 5 at the minute, don't you? But yeah, and there's the flip side of that. You had Australia in a situation, England 100 runs ahead, 1 down. Australia had the emotion and the wear of bowling day 1, and then they're back in the field again. You're thinking, get them into their second, third spells and see what happens to their intensity and skill and all that sort of thing. So that was another thing that you go, God, like that's such an opportunity. But I think England probably, I mean, Travis Head was absolutely superb. That is the first thing to say. He batted on that pitch like no one else was able to do, and he sort of treated it as a T20 really, and got away with it. It was the right decision to move him to the top. But did England maybe try a little bit too hard? Were the bowlers thinking, okay, we've got to get 10 wickets, so we have to bowl magic deliveries. You strive. I thought Mark Wood particularly was overstriding in his run-up, and that's just a desperation to get to the crease and deliver it. So I think when that pressure's on to go and get the 10 wickets and win your team the game, you almost have to try and relax a little bit more and be more patient and sort of settle into the game plans. But they were just surprised and shocked, to see Travis Head at the top, and would never have discussed the plan to Travis Head at the top of the order.
No.
All their plans would have been him coming in at 5, and they shouldn't be jaded. What did they each bowl? Sort of 7, 8 overs, 12 overs maybe in the first innings. That shouldn't take anything out of your legs, but the emotion, the nerves of the first Ashes test drains you a bit.
But the general point, you played quite a bit of cricket under McCullum and Stokes and Bazball. The general point of you or Jimmy, of any of the bowlers ever thought, come on lads, just give us a bit more time. I'm loving what you're doing, but 300 all out, in 60 overs or 300 all out in 80 overs, at least it's giving us a little bit more rest. Have you ever spoken up and said, come on, or it's just like, I'll do my job, you do yours?
Yeah, it was definitely that mindset. I'll do my job, you do yours, and it's never about overs. It was always about runs. The conversation when England went out to bat for that second time would have been, grow this scoreboard, put the bowlers under pressure. Let's extend this lead, and it wouldn't be necessarily about the pace of doing it. It's always in your own style. If Joe Root wanted to go and get 50 off 100 balls, absolutely fine. If Zak Crawley wanted to get a flyer and, you know, the openers get you 60 off the first 10, absolutely fine. It's always do it in your style, but it's always scoreboard rather than overs. But we just found ourselves in that position again with the bat in Australia, where the pressure comes on and it's so difficult to absorb.
You're the most recent out of the dressing room. Obviously, you know, we've not played for quite a long time now. Just take us into the dressing room on Stokes and McCullum after a defeat like that, or after a day's play. What's the kind of nuts and bolts of how you review a game? Is it the captain who leads it? Is it the coach who leads it? Is there conversations immediately after the game, or is it a case of, right, we want to let the dust settle and then we'll come back the next day and chat about things? How honest are those conversations? Because I've heard you say on many occasions that the one thing McCullum doesn't like is any negative talk. But there are, when you're reviewing a game like that, you're going to have to kind of point out things that have gone wrong and didn't go well. So how do they strike that balance between looking at the bad stuff, trying to learn from the bad stuff, but making sure that that doesn't kind of take over the team mentality ahead of the next game? Because, I mean, there's 2 weeks before the next game.
Yeah, how do they review that? How do they recover from that? When I look at Brendan McCullum, I don't necessarily say cricket coach. He's actually a bit more of a psychologist, really, that sort of manager of the minds. And this is his biggest challenge as England coach, without a doubt. You come to Australia full of hope, you get ahead of the game, you throw the game away, and now you've got a long break until the Gabba. The Aussies are obviously jubilant and flying, and England are copying it. How does he go about doing that? Immediately after, I think he probably would have spoken. And what he tends to do is, you'll sit in a big circle and he'll go around the group and get opinions from everyone. So I played a lot of different coaches, different teams. A lot of the time it would just be the coach and the captain, and that will be it. But Basil sort of go, Popey, what do you make of that? And he'll go around and try and get everyone to have an opinion of how maybe they felt, and then he will pick up on. I'm absolutely certain he'd have mentioned how they got themselves in a winning position as a huge positive. You get yourself 100 ahead, 1 down, knowing the team has got themselves in that sort of winning position for a long time. That's a huge credit to the guys. He'd have mentioned how well the bowlers did in the first innings, and how he would have evaluated that collapse with the sort of driving outside off would be, we know we have to do better in that scenario. How we're going to do better.
Famously, Chris Silverwood made the batters at Adelaide on the last Ashes tour sit through videos of what went wrong. I mean, it doesn't seem to me that there's much chance of that repeating itself.
But I think that they'll want more commitment in that period. That it didn't feel like a very clear, committed little period of cricket from England, did it? You know, even you talk about Harry Brook's drive, it was wafty. It wasn't a dance down and thump it for 6 over extra cover, was it? So he will pick up, definitely be aware that he's got a lot of work to do on the psychology of the guys. And I've heard him talk, he has 1,000 meetings a day. He won't sit everyone in a boardroom and go, this is what we have to do. He'll be just getting everyone together, seeing each player individually, checking how they're going. He's got work to do with Zak Crawley, without a doubt. He must be feeling devastated today with all the hope. And
I wanted to ask actually about a couple of players. Do you want to?
I just want to pick up Stuart. Sorry, I just want to pick Stuart up on one thing there. You say they didn't commit to it, and that, you said earlier about outside the off stump they could have been more positive. We hear that a lot from this setup after a collapse. We didn't go hard enough. I think McCullum said that after the very first Test defeat they had, we didn't go hard enough. We want to go harder. Every time there is a collapse or a loss, it's we need to commit more to it. That will really wind up England fans. Yeah. What they want to see is don't commit. Is there anything wrong with leaving the ball for half an hour, how frustrated do you get when you're running in the heat of Australia, running up ball after ball after ball, and Steve Smith is doing his fancy leaves and you think, I've got to go a bit straighter, and then he clips you for 4. What's wrong with leaving the ball, letting the bowler come to you, and then you're ahead of the game, and then they have to go searching? They have not had much rest, remember? Everything I've just mentioned, they've had to come back out because their batting collapsed for 100 all out. Let them come to you. You're ahead of the game. All I hear from this England side is go harder.
Yeah.
Don't go harder. Now dig in and make them get more ruthless rather than go harder.
Yeah, I don't think messaging will be go harder. It'll be more committed. And Brendan's got a very sort of clever tactical cricket brain. He will have he'll reflect on that little period. Aussies quickly change the plan. We're going to go wider. We're going to try and get them driving, bit of extra bounce and nick it. He'll be disappointed the batting group didn't pick up on that, and still committed. If the guys go, do you know what, I'm going to leave that alone for half an hour, that's still great commitment to trying to win a game of cricket. So I think he'll be disappointed that those conversations didn't happen in the changing room quickly, but it all happened so quickly. You know, it was 4 wickets in 15 minutes or something. And you know what change rooms are like when that's going on. There's thigh pads flying everywhere. Someone's trying to find the helmet. Where's my bat? You know, so it's all quite chaotic. And actually, I noticed when Stokes came out to bat, when Rooty had got out and Jamie Smith's walking to the crease, Stokes put his bat on the floor, the other
not
side
quite
of it,
ready.
and he just stopped and he took his time, took both gloves off, put them on the floor, just so that the game couldn't go anywhere until he was ready. Didn't help, he got out. But
Can I pick up on a couple of individuals, Crawley and Brook, who seem to me to be absolutely vital at the moment. They've invested so much in Zak Crawley. There's no spare opener in the squad, although I suppose Bethel could open at a push. Australia's a wonderful place to bat, but it's a wonderful place to bat when the ball is about 20 overs old. He's got out twice to Mitchell Starc, and we're about to go to Brisbane for a pink ball game, and Mitchell Starc is the maestro with a pink ball. I mean, how concerned are you for Zak Crawley?
he's in a horrible place at the moment in the sense that he's got out twice in the first over to Mitchell Starc, who's in the form of his life currently, and you're going to get to the Gabba with a pink ball and he's going to be facing Mitchell Starc. He knows he's going to play. Brendan McCullum and Stokes are very consistent with selection. They're not the sort of captain and coach who are going to tinker. That will be the same group of players if everyone's fit to go and do the job. It's tricky. I mean, Mitchell Starc took an unbelievable caught and bowl to get Zak Crawley out in the second innings. You could go, that's just unlucky. I've just been sort of, one's chipped in, could have gone in the gap, but it didn't. It was an amazing bit of athleticism. But his first innings dismissal was a bad one. You know, sort of, again, that driving at a ball that's not quite there. The Gabba
and the second innings wasn't, although it was a brilliant return catch, as you say. It was a very similar length ball. You know, he's going to go after the drive.
Yeah.
And that is risky in Australia at the start with a new ball, and especially
potentially less risky when you get to Adelaide, but the bounce at the Gabba and Perth, it's a high risk shot. So he's going to be nervous. You get a pair and you walk out in the next test, you're just desperate for one off the hip and away you go, just to get moving. But I don't think there'll be internal question marks over his position in the team. You're right, it's not like there's an opener waiting in the wings to come in. They've invested in Zak Crawley for this tour. What happens after this tour is dependent on how this tour goes. But he's been picked to play. You know, I think he averages something like 150 against Pat Cummins. No, Pat Cummins didn't play. But he has got the ability to score runs in Australia, but this will be a mental test for him to get past that first opening spell now, because Mitchell Starc was, Rooty's probably in a similar position, to be honest. You know, Rooty, Starc comes straight back into the attack when Root comes in and gets him out, and no doubt we get to Brisbane, that's going to happen exactly the same way, and the fact that Starc will be bowling at Joe Root when he comes to the crease.
I want to ask you about Harry Brook. I don't think England can win here if Harry Brook doesn't have a good series. And it seemed to me before the series that there were two areas that they were going to attack Harry Brook, with the short ball, and that's how he got out in the first innings, albeit not hitting it up, but, you know, trying to pull out the shot and gloved it behind. And then hanging the ball on fifth stump because his foot doesn't go to the pitch of the ball, and he's playing with a slightly, I suppose, angled bat, you'd call it. I mean, in Australia, if you were distilling how to bat here with the extra bounce, you'd say full face down the ground, fine. Horizontal bats, cross bat shots, fine. Those half and half shots, really risky, and his second innings dismissal encapsulated that.
Absolutely. I mean, we played with a lad, Zak Crawley, who liked to play that back foot punch with an angle bat, and he came here and struggled. Even in the nets, we were talking to him, just be careful of that shot. And which is odd because he's brought up in Old Trafford.
2 England players to get pairs in Perth.
Zak Crawley was one, was he?
And Zak Crawley. not related. Same nickname.
Yeah, and Atherton was the last opener. Did he get a pair?
Melbourne, yeah.
Melbourne. So, yeah, listen, it is a dangerous shot out there. A lot of people are focusing, I think, on the wrong Harry Brook shot, the run down the pitch. That seems to frustrate a lot of people. Second ball, he ran down the pitch to Mitch Stark. Over before lunch, 2 balls, he ran down the pitch. Imagine getting out before lunch on the first day of an Ashes test, running down the pitch to Mitchell Stark. But that shot, if you look at the CricViz stats, that shot he nails 99% of the time and hits it for 6 a lot of the time. That's like Ben Duckett playing a reverse sweep or you trying to play a forward defence or something. That's just their go-to shot. That's not the one, it's the hook. We were saying in the summer when he was hooking it for 6 or whatever, just be careful in Australia on these big grounds. They're going to go after you. And it looked like he knew it was coming. And in the first innings, he was, the commit comment, he wasn't sure what to do. And I said to you on the first podcast we did, you have to tell yourself, what are you going to do with the short ball? There's no point going, no, I'm not going to hook, no, I'm not going to hook. The moment you say, no, I'm not going to do something, under pressure, most of the time you end up doing it. Tell yourself, as Stark or Cummins is running in, what am I going to do when he bounces me? Duck. I have to say duck. And he'll have to either, he wasn't sure what he was going to do. And that's a technical one out there. Ricky Ponting was very strong when we had him in the summer about Harry Brook. Ricky was brilliant with his technical analysis. He noticed that Harry puts his foot on off stump wherever the line of the ball is. Now you trigger and you should go across if it's outside off. He goes on off stump. Now that makes him a very good player if he can flat bat it or he's very strong in that area. But if it's at in-between line and then he goes like he did second innings, in Australia he's vulnerable.
So a supplementary question about Harry Brook. He's not somebody, I don't think, who kind of reads much around the papers. He won't be listening to podcasts, at least I hope he's not. But he needs to tackle that, doesn't he? He can't just throw the bat at a 5th stump line with the extra bounce at places like Perth and Brisbane where we're going, which is a similar pitch. Has he got the wherewithal to learn from those mistakes?
I think he needs to. I think he needs to just park the ego a little bit, realise what a supreme talent he is. Remember how Sri Lanka bowled? Stuart mentioned it on the way here. Remember how Sri Lanka bowled to him when they did throw it out there and he got really frustrated and started taking an 8th stump guard, and you can't bowl there to me, I'm Harry Brook. You can be sure now that Boland, who didn't get it right first innings, he bowled nice little floaty drive balls, Scott Boland is going to bowl out there, and Harry Brook has to say, I am not playing your game. I am too good just to be driving out there. I might do in Adelaide, but not in Brisbane. So he needs to just rein himself in a little bit, keep that attacking instinct when they get into his areas, charge down the pitch, hit it over extra for 6 if you want to, cut like you do, play spin like you do. But he must, it's just analysis. You must know what is coming next. They've got 13 days now. He must have known going to Perth they're going to bounce him. He must now know going to the next game they're going to bowl that 6 stump line. Just have a plan, what you're going to do. It's what we've all had to do. The planning he used to do as a bowler was incredible. It's just what all cricketers at this level, any level, have to do.
Do you want to just answer that about Brook? I mean, you've played with him, you know him. Is he somebody who will sit and analyse, or is he a see ball, hit ball player? He's better than that, isn't he?
I don't think he'll go through a lot of data and sit in front of a laptop like a lot of players do and really work out and study where foot positions are going and stuff. He's a field player. He feels what he's doing, but he adores batting. He loves batting. He wants to spend I say as long out there as possible, score as many runs as possible, and he will be annoyed at himself with that dismissal.
I thought that was the
second
worst
innings.
dismissal
I
actually
did.
in the game.
Yeah, it was, and he'll be aware of that. He's now not just the young kid on the block who's got a lot of talent and we're excited to see. He's now averaging over 50 in Test match cricket at a crucial number 5. We need him scoring runs. He's a really important player. So Australia have won that battle with him. They've bounced him out once and they've bowled the sort of 7th stump line and he's nicked it. He won't. He's a proud player. He won't want that to continue, and he'll have to combat that. And now he knows what the plans are going to be. He's a good enough player to work out how he's going to combat that, and that might be him running down the pitch more. It might be, but we'll find that out. I don't think he'll make a technical tweak in this gap. It'll just be a psychological one.
I'm going to pick you up. I thought the Pope dismissals was the one that frustrated me the most. We were sat there in that room watching. How many times before lunch did Pope have a flashy drive outside the off stump? You could see that dismissal coming a mile off. He was 8 or 9, and he played so well in the first inning. You said you saw him at Lilac Hill, and he looked composed and calm and not frenetic. He played brilliantly in the first inning. Second innings, flash, flash, flash. He went to lunch, and he thought someone or himself at lunch would have thought, put that shot away. I've missed a few. I'm playing with danger there, and straight after lunch, flash and nick.
It was a frustrating dismissal, and you could see it coming. The reason that I said I thought Brook's dismissal was the worst is simply because I think he's such an important player for England. You've got that kind of fulcrum of Root at 4, Brook at 5. If England are going to win games here, those two have got to produce. There are absolute top-notch players, and I just feel that that's the kind of fulcrum of the batting lineup. Should we just throw it forward a bit? I mean, it's a curious thing now, isn't it? They've got 13 days before the next Test match. I don't think I've ever been on an England tour where there's been a 2-week break between games. I mean, they could fly home and come back again and, be ready for the next Test. So how would you, if you were the senior player in there right now, how would you be kind of chatting through what would be the best approach for the team over that period, other than going to vineyards and booking tea times?
Ultimately, I look from a bowler's point of view. That's how I would structure what workload I want to do, what skill work I'd want to do before the next game. Also, what facilities are available. They probably won't be able to change flights and logistics and things like that at this stage. But I imagine they'll do netting. I don't know if they'll be able to get a middle practice in. I actually used to really enjoy the middle practices when you bowl against. You have a net basically, but without nets there, and you get a real sense of lengths and what balls go for 4 and what balls are challenging. The bowlers want to get a pink ball in their hand and get used to the feeling of that again. But they need some cricket.
So there's potential for 2 days against the Prime Minister's 11 at Canberra. That would be some competitive cricket with a pink ball. But I just saw some quotes, I think, from Stuart Law, who knows the conditions at Manica Oval. It's a long time since I've been there, but it used to be a very slow, low pitch at Manica, and obviously the Gabba is completely different for that. And if England flagged up a long time ago that they were not planning to send their players there, that this was going to be an expedition for the Lions, if they suddenly changed tack, they'll be accused of panicking. I mean, do you think they will consider sending any players there,
no,
or they'll just go to Brisbane?
They'll keep the group together. They'll train together as a
and if
tight
Zak
unit.
Crawley on the back of a pair came to you and said, I'd really like a bit of a hit at Manica, what would you say then?
Great question. Great question. I was actually going to ask you, if you were coach, what would you do with the group? But I don't think that any England player will go there. I think Baz will want to keep them tight as a group, training together, like learning off each other. What did you get out of the last game? How did you feel? Because there's no doubt a few of them would have got to the crease, felt rushed, felt like the crowd was noisy. It's only going to there might be less people at the Gabba, but it's noisy, really noisy when they get out to the middle. How do we compose ourselves and not lose wickets in clusters? It'll be all those sort of conversations. So I don't think he'll want the group fragmenting into different parts of Australia to work on things. It will be very much that, nothing's really changed from 4 days ago. We're in a good place. We're ready to go. And just because we've lost that game doesn't mean we can't go to Brisbane and get in a winning position.
Before I bring in that, I mean, just finishing on a slightly more optimistic note. I mean, you spent the last few days in the Channel 7 commentary box. Did you get the sense amongst the former Australian players that they were ready to start kind of criticising? England got in a good position, didn't they? Khawaja wanders off with a back strain. Looked, there's question marks about his place at the top of the order. Nathan Lyon was kind of limping, having been hit by Mark Wood. I got the sense that there were a few cracks ready to open if England could have got on top and made that position count. Did you sense that as well from the former players in the commentary box?
Absolutely. 2 days ago, Usman Khawaja's front page of the paper, having played golf the day before.
Headline mulligan.
Or like 3 days before in a row or something, and then goes in the back. And they were ready to go. And then we're in a results-driven business. So if England win that Test match, Australia, suddenly there'd be pressure on George Bailey, there'd be pressure on the head coach, everything. Because they win, that's all them brushed under the carpet, and you move forward, and their only decision is whether you keep Travis Head at the top, really, and think. Which
is an interesting call, isn't it?
If Usman Khawaja's not fit, or you think there's better players than him, then he misses out. But I think that there was definitely a feeling when England were 100 ahead that this Australian team hadn't really got firing. Obviously, Mitchell Stark had a wonderful first day, and England were on top. And I think that again is, as a former England player, you go, gosh, what an opportunity.
Yeah.
What an opportunity that was to start this tour. Well, I don't, it's a really good Australian group, and the fact they've got match winners like Travis Head who can go and do that. I thought England, as Stokes admitted, were very shell-shocked as to what they did and didn't cope with it particularly well. There was one, I don't think Stokes bowled himself early enough, but also when someone's going like that, is there the chance to just slow it down, give him one, then when Labuschagne gets on strike, you bowl 5 dots, Travis Head gets on strike, give him one, and then for 40 minutes, he doesn't face many balls, he doesn't find the boundary, and then he might make a mistake. But every time Labuschagne got on strike, we bowled a leg stump half volley that he clipped to square leg, and he's off strike again. So it was a poor bowling performance within an unbelievable batting display. I think the Australian press and ex-players were lining up Australia if that day didn't go particularly
which
well.
is the frustration. I mean, we've captained England teams here where sometimes we've gone into a game wondering how we're going to get 20 wickets, whereas to grasp one kind of bit of hope out of a 2-day defeat, certainly in that first innings it looked as though England do have ammunition here. They do have a capability of picking up wickets, taking 20 wickets. Do you think that's the main bit of hope to cling to as we move forward now to the Gabba and beyond, that there will be opportunities for England in this series if they're good enough to take them?
Yeah, first thing you got to do is get over that frustration. You've just had Australia in the first test of a series in Australia in your hands like that, and they're without Cummins and Hazelwood, and you've got the game there and you let it go, and we all know how hard it's to come back in this country. So that's the first thing to get over. The second thing is to then move it on to positivity. Now, if us has-beens, as to use the quote of the captain,
Were you involved in the has-been?
we weren't two of the has-beens. We are has-beens, or never were.
We weren't named, but we took it as read that we are.
Are you a has-been?
I agree with Stokesy if he got you involved in that as well, but I don't think I get into the has-been just yet. But
You're pretty close.
Give it a while.
In my era, to use that horrible saying, the sides we were playing against, having had that 2-day defeat here, to go to the Gabatoir against the lineups we had to face and the crowd we'd have to face at the Gabba, that is a big comeback. But with this present Australian side, as Stuart called the worst Australian side to ever play the game, there are cracks there, there are opportunities, as we have seen in the last 2 days. But the only thing I would ask is learn from your mistakes. That's the only thing I'm not quite getting from this team. There's a little bit of that's the way I play. There's that with Crawley, there's that with Pope, there's that with Brook. That's how we play. If you go with that, you will always get, to use one of my cliches, what you've always got. Please learn from your mistakes and try and improve, because if you keep doing it, the same result will happen at the Gabba. So just learn from your mistakes and play better, because you know you can beat this lot.
So a kind of a downbeat couple of days in Perth, without a doubt, but a slightly upbeat message to finish on, that there will be opportunities down the line if England are good enough to take them.
I think particularly on the pitches that we're going to see. The Australian batters have talked a lot about how much these pitches are doing in Australia now, whether that's to do with having a captain in Pat Cummins as a bowler, but they're moving much more than certainly in your era when you came, and the early sort of 13, 14 tours. So the opportunity to take 20 wickets is there because the pitches are offering you that. So teams will have little batting collapses here and there because they're difficult to start on. You only see Steve Smith got hit on the back elbow 3 times, and Marnus Labuschagne the same. So you're seeing in different bounce in these surfaces. So the chance will be to get 20 wickets. It's whether we're good enough to get the runs at the crucial time, I think. I think when we chatted to Ricky Ponting at the Oval, remember on that rooftop, he said 10 and 11, England came here, average batting partnership was 50. And since then it's been 20. And the first test here didn't do those averages any favours going up in the right direction. So, yeah, we're going to, I think you're right, Harry Brook's going to have to score. We're going to need Root and Brook to score runs at some stage in this series if England are going to do the job.
13 days, what are you up to? Bit of Pro-Am golf?
Is there a Pro-Am golf?
Didn't you not say you're going to Melbourne to play in the Pro-Am?
I haven't decided fully on anything yet, apart from I'm going on an Australian show called The Front Bar, which...
sounds thirsty.
It's an AFL type sort of show that's supposed to be a lot of fun.
Right.
That's what it's been described to me as. So I'm a little bit nervous of that in Melbourne, and then over to Sydney for bits of work and bits of podcasting, and looking forward to the cricket.
And you, Margaret River, for a couple of days?
Yeah, hopefully. And then to my favourite venue, the Gabba, where the toss will not be mentioned at all, will it? Great. Looking forward to it. And 13 days with you. Great.
Well, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining the best cricket podcast going. You can scurry back to Joss Butler.
Is that official in the rankings?
I don't know.
I think he probably
We're
is.
probably a bit behind you and Joss. Anyway.
And was it you to blame for me being on Sky Sports Twitter feed with my sort of eyes
I loved
closed
that actually this morning. I was chuckling away seeing you next to Matthew Hayden, and I thought, if things go like they've gone in the last couple of days at Perth, it's going to be a long summer.
Is it ever?
In the Channel 7 commentary box.
It is ever. Although what I would say, it's a lot easier losing from the commentary box than it is on the field. Yeah.